up, YouTube? It's your boy JusRzd, and we are here to review a brand new series that just debuted on Max. We're talking DC Comics. We're talking James Gunn's first iteration of shows in the DC brand since he's taken the helm. We're talking the Creature Commandos at this particular point. Now, anybody who knows me, knows my content, knows my channel. I'm a Marvel guy. But one thing I have to admit, as being a Marvel guy, I know more about the Marvel comics than I do DC. But DC has always killed Marvel on the animation side. Like, DC's animated stuff has always been way better than Marvel's animated stuff. However, Marvel kills them in the cinematic. In the cinematic universe, Marvel kills them. But that's neither here nor there. This is a new iteration under James Gunn with him at the helm. Creature Commandos is his first project. We got 2 episodes that dropped. They were each like 20 some minutes, almost 30 minutes of content. TVMA, so it's definitely not for kids. Definitely not for kids. Now, I personally thought it was going to be TVMA for the gore and the explicit violence. And there is that. There's a lot of gore, a lot of violence. But they take it there. So it's definitely TVMA for a reason. Definitely not something I would recommend watching with your kids. But for those who are DC Comics fans and are of age, first 2 episodes were very interesting for me, very telling. So we kick off the actual first episode with Rick Flag Sr. talking to Amanda Waller. And shout out to Viola Davis for reprising her role as I was about to say as Viola Davis, but as Amanda Waller. She's really good, Amanda Waller. That's neither here nor there. But she's doing a good job. And what you call is a good Rick Flag Sr. too. I can't remember his name right now. I just know he was Crossbones in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I can't remember his actual name currently. Anyway, I'll think about it later. But I put it in the edit. But it was interesting seeing their dynamics, seeing them play off each other. It was dope to see them interacting. We get to see insight on what Amanda Waller is trying to put together a team for. Apparently, the way they say her name, it's not Cersei, it's Circe or something like that. I'm gonna say Cersei because I'm probably gonna forget how to say it, how they said it. Cersei pretty much is leading a rebellion in this foreign country, and once she finishes and completes her uprising in this foreign country, she has made a declaration of war against Themyscira. The people on the news don't even know that that's a real island. They thought it was a legendary myth, fake island, but apparently Cersei has outed them with that particular information. We still have no credibility that Themyscira is real. Now, anybody who knows DC comic lore, you know Themyscira is a real thing. It's where Wonder Woman and Cersei come from. So it's it's interesting that she even went on, like, made that information public. And she has these like red pill MAGA type of, I ain't gonna say it's MAGA, but like these red pill conspiracy theorist dudes working underneath her, coming at feminists, and it kind of made a joke of them, which is kind of funny. But we pretty much finish off the conversation with Amanda Waller and Rick Flag as she turns off the news, and they walk through the facility. She brings him to the level of whatever prison they're in. I forgot the exact prison that they were in. And it's a level that contains non-human prisoners. And so we have the Weasel, we have Nina, who's like the fish lady, we have the Bride, we have GI Robot, we have Dr. Phosphorus, all on the same like level. And as soon as they see that Amanda Waller stepping out, Dr. Phosphorus, I believe it was Weasel, and the Bride proceed to try to attack Amanda Waller, and of course she has her torture device ready. She hits the button, everybody gets shocked and passes out, and she pretty much says, "This is your team, Rick Flag. It's not Task Force X anymore, it's Task Force M," and then she apologizes for what happened to his son. So apparently that's canon. Rick Flag Jr. is no longer with us because he did pass away. He got killed by Peacemaker in the Suicide Squad. So that's still canon. So that was a little interesting tidbit and Easter egg. So of course Rick Flag's feeling a little bit sad about that, but pretty much has to get this team in gear because they're going to the foreign country that Cersei's invading, and or starting a revolution in, and they have to protect the royal family pretty much. And the only person that's left when they get there of the royal family is the princess and the queen, who low-key looks like a zombie, but she ain't gonna be with us too much longer, clearly. Just based on her representation, she looked like she already dead. That's all I'm saying. She looked like she ain't been with us for a long time, but she holding on for dear life. So we see him round up the team. Of course, the whole team's taking jabs at each other while they're on the plane, while they're in transit to the country. And they get to the country, and pretty much the guards of the princess and her royal army or whatever are like super into like American pop culture, but it's like early millennial American pop culture. Like they're referencing the "What's that?" They referenced a lot of pop culture that was like early 2000s, late 90s. And so that was interesting, and they were trying to make a joke. They threatened to kill Rick Flag because he didn't bow correctly. Then they just shrugged it off and was like, "Look, we were playing with you. We were just making a joke, like the Jamie Kennedy experience." I was like, "The Jamie Kennedy experience? I ain't heard that in a long time." Jamie Kennedy experience? Shout out to Jamie Kennedy. Probably one of my favorite comedies of all time. Malibu's Most Wanted. B-Rad G. But shout out to Jamie Kennedy. That was a super random reference that I was not expecting to hear in a DC project. So that was funny. So as they're spending the night, we see Rick Flag pretty much checking on the princess, making sure she's good. She's coming on to Rick Flag. Rick Flag's uncomfortable because he's like, "You're the asset. This would be conflicting. This ain't right." And he kind of finagles himself up out of there. And as he's sleeping and everybody else is asleep, the bride actually takes off because where they're actually going and where they're actually at currently is where she was actually created, the country in which she was actually created. So she goes, sneaks out the house, and takes a cab. Before she can even get down to the ground, though, Nina actually meets her down there. She was like, "How'd you get down here so fast?" And Nina's like, "I just took the stairs." She was like, "Nobody stopped you?" She was like, "We're here to protect them. Why would they stop me?" So that was kind of funny. And they make it outside the gate. She ends up getting some cash from one of the guards, and they end up taking, I guess, a Uber or a taxi to this address, which turns out to be the lab where her and Frankenstein were created. And as soon as they pull up, you see somebody in the distance in a shack spying and keep an eye on the house, and she sees who pulls up. She makes a phone call. There's a person on a yacht while people are partying answering the phone call. It's a big burly dude. I was like, I wonder who this is. He's in the shadows, so you can't really see him. Starts talking in Russian or some type of foreign language. And the lady's pretty much saying, "You asked me to keep an eye out on the crib, and the lady that you were looking for has now actually showed up." And before I get into the reveal of who this person is, cut back to the people at the mansion, and we see Dr. Phosphorus getting his stuff together, looking at his hands, looking at his abilities. We see Weasel sleep. We see G.I. Robot is standing guard at the princess's door, talking about how many Nazis he killed in each battle. And while he's talking, Weasel is asleep. I guess that's soothing to him. Weasel is asleep at his feet while he's just standing guard at that point. And Rick is asleep. And then he hears a commotion in his room. He looks up, and it's Dr. Phosphorus looking for the device, the controlling device that Rick Flag was given by Amanda Waller, that pretty much allows him to control them with the shocking device. That if he presses the button, it ends up shocking them. Same thing she used on them when she first entered and showed Rick Flag the squad. So she's looking for the device. He finds the device, and of course, as soon as he finds the device, Rick Flag gets out of bed and is just standing there in his drawers like, bro, what you doing? And Dr. Foster was just like, hey. And so Rick Flag, him and Rick Flag end up getting into a fight, and Rick Flag, they pretty much punching each other. He tries to punch him a few times and then realizes, I shouldn't be touching this dude. And then Dr. Phosphorus is starting to light stuff on fire. Then they end up falling through the floor into the kitchen. Of course, Rick is kind of going toe to toe with him and beating him up, but he has to improvise a lot because he can't physically touch him or he's gonna hurt himself. And he hurt himself a couple times by punching him, but he ends up getting the device back. And he's just like, yo, what do you think was gonna happen? You thought this is the only device she gave me? You know she's gonna have multiple devices, and the moment you go rogue, she's gonna do she's either gonna knock y'all out with the device, or she's gonna do something even worse. I thought we were supposed to be a team. I'm trying to look out for y'all. So whether I tell her that y'all tried to go rogue or y'all actually do go rogue, you know it's gonna be up for y'all. And so Dr. Foster was like, yeah, you right. And so it was just funny because we pretty much see the dynamic of everything going on, and just in in their facility, and we see cutting back to who was alerted that the bride has returned to the facility where she was created. He steps out the shadows. He said, my bride has finally returned, and it's actually Frankenstein. So Frankenstein is the one who hired the old lady to keep watch over his crib, and so he was just like, yo, I'm on my way, and hangs up the phone. And that's the end of the first episode. And the second episode picks up right where the first episode left off. We see Rick Flag getting treated by the princess in the bathroom for his scars and stuff like that. We see Dr. Phosphorus, Weasel, and G.I. Robot kind of looking outside the doorway as he's getting patched up in the bathroom. And he's getting pissed off and is about to hit the button to cause their devices to detonate. And the princess just ends up closing the door, so he don't have to worry about them. She's taking care of his wounds. She realized as he takes his shirt off that he has a lot of wounds from a lot of different battles. She was able to talk to him and get information just about his son. At first, I ain't gonna hold you, the princess seemed real suspicious. I was thinking to myself, is that Cersei? But we see actually later in episode 2 that Cersei's alerted of the bride and Nina in Frankenstein's lab, pretty much where they were created. And we see her getting alerted. We see her eating in front of the guys that she's enlisted in helping her start this revolution or this rebellion. And it was just interesting because it was just like, yo, she's going to town on this food. I don't really know why, but her character seems very interesting. I don't know if she's going to be the overarching main villain in this particular scenario or if it's going to be something different, but episode 2 was pretty much all about the bride. Of course, before we get into the bride, just to finish off Rick Flag and the princess's story, she ends up coming on to the Rick Flag again, and this time she ends up being successful, and they end up doing what they do in the bathroom while G.I. Robot, Weasel, and Dr. Phosphorus are outside the door listening. And then one of the guards comes up and like, hey, is Rick Flag in there? And Dr. Phosphorus was like, yeah, but you might want to give him a minute. Technically he said 30 seconds, but then he was just like, you might want to give him some time. He needs this, is what Dr. Phosphorus said. But the guard was pretty much coming up to let them know that the bride and Nina had escaped. And so of course, once they get that information, they head out to where they were located with the trackers that they have on Nina and Dr. Frankenstein, and the bride, not Dr. Frankenstein. And the whole episode, we are pretty much following the bride and Nina as they explore pretty much where she was born and the whole lab and the whole building. We get her backstory, how she was created. Frankenstein wanted to have a wife because the person who created him had a wife and had a family, and he wanted to experience love, and he wanted to know what love felt like, so he wanted the doctor to create him a wife. And he actually had different pieces from the coroner of different corpses, and he found the head that is the bride's head currently, and was just like, this is what we're going to use. They pieced her together. They pretty much did the same experiment that they did with Frankenstein. And once he created her, you pretty much see Frankenstein being overly zealous and overly eager to make her his wife, not realizing she's getting hit with all this at once. She still has to be taught how to read, how to talk, how to write. Like, she still has to be taught basic things. So the doctor's like, yo, chill out. Like, you gotta chill, you gotta relax. You're doing too much, pretty much, in essence. It's like, yo, I still gotta teach her how to do. She's like a baby at this point. I gotta teach her how to do all this stuff. So he starts teaching her different things, how to identify things, how to speak, how to talk, how to think cognitively, and just how to be a human of sorts. And you kind of start to see that it looks like he's teaching her humor and a lot of different things, and you kind of see that their relationship's getting a little weird from my perspective. Because I'm like, yeah, are you treating her like a child, or are you actually starting to catch feelings? It was a little awkward. I ain't gonna hold you. It was a little awkward. It was like, bro, this kind of weird. And the whole time, Frankenstein's just in the background, just like, yo, like, when's she gonna be ready? Like, I deserve to have a wife, and like, that's what she was created for, and I feel like you're trying to keep her from me. So whole time, Frankenstein ain't with none of it. He's just super ready for her to be what she was created to be, not realizing it's gonna take a process for her to get to that point. That's not something you could really like flip a switch on. And so the whole time, the doctor and the bride are getting super close. Their relationship is developing. He's teaching her things. He's giving her gifts. He's showing her how to receive presents. Next thing you know, that relationship ends up diverting into something that it shouldn't have been. They actually end up being intimate with each other, and Frankenstein actually sees this. It breaks his heart, and when the bride is away, he ends up unaliving the doctor and strapping him to like this chair, and he's like contorted. He did him dirty. He did him dirty. And of course that upsets the bride, because the bride had feelings for the doctor. And Frankenstein, once again, still trying to pursue her and make her realize that she's supposed to be his bride. And now her feelings are hurt, because she's like, yo, you just killed the person I had feelings for. And so they start fighting, and then it goes through the history of these two, her running away from him chasing her through different time periods and different situations, and just them never seeing eye to eye. He wants her to be his bride, and she wants nothing to do with him. So they end up always fighting each other in different time periods, and you get to see the history of that. And then we jump back to present day, and Cersei pulls up on the mansion, and her and Cersei start getting active. She saves Nina from one of Cersei's blasts, and then her and Cersei just start giving hands to one another. Nina tries to escape, and she ends up running into some of the militia people from Cersei's band, and she ends up having to turn back around and run back to the house for safety, and ends up getting her helmet shot off. And Nina, of course, being the fish woman, she can't breathe without her helmet unless she's in water, because she has gills. And so she's gasping for air, laying on the floor, and the bride and Cersei are just giving hands to each other, and the bride almost takes Cersei out, and Cersei turns her hands into like the inflatable car salesman thing. So she can't even hit her anymore, because her hands are like have become those inflatable things. And so Cersei just ends up two-piecing her off the building, pushing her off. She ends up falling all the way off the top of the building to the ground. Of course, she's not dead, because she is Frankenstein. She is the bride of Frankenstein. And before the episode ends, she it's funny because we see that not only is Rick Flag and the crew on their way, but they're kind of trapped at this particular point. She tries to apologize to Nina. Nina says F off and pretty much F you, for lack of better words, is legitimately what she said. And then they end up getting captured, and they end up becoming prisoners of Cersei and the militia that Cersei has. And that's pretty much where episode 2 ends. And we get the preview for episode 3, which is just Rick Flag and the crew arriving at the scene trying to rescue them. So episode 3 should be interesting. But what I will say, episode 1 and 2 did a lot to showcase what this show is going to be and introduce these characters to the world. We introduced the squad in episode 1, and then you got to see one of the members' backstory in episode 2, which was very intricate and detailed. In my opinion, that was a lot, and that's not how I thought that story was going to. I don't know if that's how that story was explained in the comics, if that's like how that happened in the comics for DC, because like I said, I'm not a DC Comics guy, but that went left for me, because I mean, we all know the story of Frankenstein and the story of the Bride of Frankenstein, but that I didn't expect that to go that way. So I was completely caught off guard. So if I had to rate episode 1 and episode 2, episode 1 I'd probably give like a 7.5. It was a good introduction to everything and a good introduction to the crew, and their motivation for why they're even going over there. But episode 2, I'll probably give it a 9, just because of how they told her story and how they made everything relevant and making sense to why she was even there, searching for what she was searching for. Why Frankenstein had people spying on the house to make sure when if she ever came back to the house, that he would be able to find her. Like, this is an ongoing thing. Like, all of it played into her backstory. So I love the way they told the story of that. Like, I could have done without some of the scenes for sure, but what I will say is they definitely told that story well. Like I said, I give episode 1 probably 7.5, probably give episode 2 a 9, just off of storytelling alone. I'm liking the way the show is being animated. I really do like the animation style. The jokes are hitting. They don't feel super forced. Certain jokes kind of miss me a little bit because they felt a little forced, but for the most part, most of the jokes have been hitting like they should. So I enjoyed the first 2 episodes, but let me know in the comment below how you in the comments below how you felt about these first 2 episodes. Have you seen it? Have you taken the time to see it? If you're planning on watching it with your kids, don't. But if you want to watch it, go right ahead and watch it. But definitely don't watch it with your kids. Definitely don't do that. But if you're of age, hey man, have at it. Especially if you're a comic book fan. Like I said, I'm a comic book fan, but I'm more of a Marvel comic book fan. But I'm interested in seeing what James Gunn is going to do with DC, because I feel like if anybody could turn DC around, it's James Gunn. And I felt like those first 2 episodes were indicative of James Gunn and just his humor, and he has good comedic timing with a lot of different things. So I appreciate that about James Gunn. He did well with Guardians, and I expect him to do well with the live action DCU. But right now we got Creature Commandos, so I will be reviewing this series in its totality. So we got the first 2 episodes down, but let me know in the comments below how you felt about it. If you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, put it on your watch list so you can watch it later, and then come back and comment how you felt about it. And don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to share the video, because likes and shares do help push the video to new audiences and helps the community in this channel grow. And also subscribing to the channel, hitting that notification bell, so that way you can be notified anytime that we upload a new video, which is every day. It also helps growing the community that is the JusRzd channel, where we review stuff, we react to stuff, we talk about music, we talk about faith, we talk about life, we talk about a lot of different things. we talk about a lot of different things. You get insight on just musical things, because I am an independent artist. I'm also a husband. I'm also a father. So I do talk about a variety of different things. I love interacting with anime, video games, comic book stuff, all essences and aspects of nerddom and blerddom. So yeah, stay tapped in with your boy, and never forget, it's FreeSoul to the show free. Let's get it.